Good afternoon, everyone. Can y'all hear me? Welcome to the Mayor and Council work session for this Saturday, September 28, 2017 at 3 p.m. Call the meeting to order and would ask that y'all review the agenda. I do have two changes on the agenda. I would like to ask that we remove under tab E2 the variance for D.R. Horton.
It's the development agreement.
Number one.
Okay. My mistake. So we're going to remove, I would ask that we remove E1 and that we move item F1, which is Chief Mansour's item, to the top of the agenda so he can go out and be a part of our homecoming parade for Villarica High School. And while I've got the stage, our Villarica Wildcats are doing very good this year. And I hope everybody comes out tomorrow night and watches them. We've got an exciting team, an exciting coach, and everybody in town is really excited about where we're headed with that program. So an unsolicited good thing to say about our new coach, Rico Zachary, who's doing a tremendous job.
I've got a request, too. If, assuming that Sarah gets here, I'd like to consider putting her on, moving her up behind Chief Mansour. Agree to that?
She's already at tab D. So where are you talking about moving her?
Right after the chief.
Right after the chief.
Okay.
As soon as he finishes.
All right. All right. Any other changes to the agenda? If not, I would entertain a motion. We accept the agenda as printed and as revised.
We don't need that, do we?
We
No,
don't?
we don't. This is a work
It's
session.
just a work session.
We can't vote.
Okay. That's right.
Let's vote just for fun.
Oh, we'll support you.
Practice.
There's a consensus.
Okay, you have in your packets, and by the way, this is our first meeting with our little Microsoft Pros. So we've all Surface Pros, most of us have those up here, and it's a lot easier to read and a lot less bulky than having those big council packets. And I hope that the answer to this is yes. I hope it's a lot easier on you, Elisa. Great, great.
Yeah, when you select the pen, it ties us.
Okay, so we will consider those for vote. We will consider.
We'll be okay.
Well,
We're
I'm-
used to the world being against us all the way from grade school.
I play golf, or I try to play golf left-handed. Okay, so we will vote on those. Y'all take a look at those, and we'll vote Tuesday night on those. Item number 2, see, where are we moving, Chief? Right now?
Yep.
Come on up, Chief. Now I gotta figure out how to scroll
Good
down.
afternoon. Is this on?
Yes, now it is. All right. Mayor and council, I appreciate you letting me move up. I'm going to work the parade for the homecoming, and I've worn my purple like I'm supposed to work the parade. So, what we're asking is that we move funds from the areas that it shows here. This money was to be used for technical, and we were going to get the equipment to try to do the backups on all the video and everything, but we're able to make it through this year where we don't have to have it yet, and once we get the new cameras and all, we'll need it for next year, so we'll put it back in the budget for next year. So this year we're going to use it to buy cars because we know how tight the budget's going to be next year for detectives' cars, and we've got a couple of cars that are over 100,000, and so we would like to try to use this money to buy 2 cars for the detectives. We've priced those cars at Don Rich. They're used cars, average of about 30,000 miles on them. They both will have warranties on them because they are the
Program?
not program, but they're the inspected so that we do get an extra warranty on them. The drivetrain, everything's 100,000 and all, and the rest of it's another 12,000. So we felt like this was going to be a good deal. So we're asking that we move this money to use to buy those cars.
Any questions of staff?
Did you look at the program cars to see the difference?
We went to him and we asked him what he thought would be the best for us to use in this situation. These are the same types of cars that we've used before, and he said this is the best deal you're going to be able to get is to use these. So that's why we went that way.
Well, you already answered in here the question I had, which had more to do with why are we replacing high mileage, that sort of thing.
Six, 8 months ago, we asked for a map. I asked you for a map on where all the people live, see how far these take-home cars were being driven every day.
I recall something about it, but all of the patrol cars are within 15 miles. Yes, sir. The detectives' cars, a few of them are a little bit more than that.
Any other questions? Thank you, Chief.
Yes.
Keep everybody happy out there. And what do you want to do with Sarah?
Just wait till
Somebody's coming in the door. Okay. Never mind.
what she's doing is putting your budget books together. So she's going to present those.
Okay. All right, moving right along, item number 2 then, or 3, is lease of the old Head Start property, which we discussed at the last council meeting.
So the minutes were next after the chief. So I guess any questions about the minutes, maybe?
We already talked about that.
The minutes?
Yeah, I said everybody take a look at the minutes,
I'm
they're in your
sorry.
packets, and then we can't vote on them today, so we'll vote on them Tuesday. So who's going to handle the Head Start?
We didn't have any changes though.
Well, I've already mentioned mine to Alyssa. If nobody else had any,
Did I read that correctly, that it didn't think it was needed on that side of town? Or how did I misunderstand your report of saying that we had enough and we didn't need another one? Or did I misunderstand it?
No, I didn't say that. I said that at the time, you're talking about the Head Start bill.
No, yeah.
At the time that was approved, we didn't have any preschool activities in town. And I can't vouch for the fact that we do now. I believe we do, because I believe the school system offers preschool services. I know there are a few other private businesses that offer preschool services. So I think that the facts have changed a little bit based on what the council voted on in 2004. But if you think that there is still a need for that, then it would be a good thing to express that.
Well, me personally, I think so. Me being in the school system, looking at the children that go to these programs and the children that don't, you can tell a vast difference in how far they are versus one that just come from home and go to pre-K. It's a big difference. So, and I guess I was thinking, we spend we don't spend a lot of time, but, we can do all these alcohol licenses, and I think we got enough of those, but we still add to. So I don't think you can get too much education, or you can get too much. So that's my opinion. And on that side, on the east side, I think we need some more. You know, we've got enough children. We've got some children over there that could probably benefit. Well, I know could benefit versus having to go across town, and sometimes they don't have transportation. So that's
So my question is anyone going to present this on this Head Start? Because I don't think the question is whether or not we need it, whether or not we can use it. I think the question is just a legal matter of whether or not we can enter into the agreement that we've seen. Is that right, David?
Well, that is a question. I mean, and to enter into the agreement, you're going to have to first make the determination that this proposal, or that they are going to be providing some service that the city would otherwise be providing itself. Because you're essentially giving free rent to use city property to a business. And the only way you can do that is that if that business is offering some sort of service to the council, to the community, to the city, that we would otherwise be providing ourselves.
Well, but we don't provide that service, do we?
No.
So what I said last time and what I'll say this time is there a way to look at this agreement where we're not necessarily doing it for free?
Yeah.
I mean, I'd like to
That's
find
my
a
question.
way to do it, but if you're telling me that essentially what you've said is that we don't provide that service,
Correct.
so there's no way to enter it into this agreement for free. But is there a way to enter into it for some amount?
What's the minimum?
Is there a minimum?
You have the ability to lease the property to, I mean, because this is a for-profit business that's going to be operating here. It's, you know, it's just like any other business in town that's trying to make some money, even for a good cause. So you could enter into a lease agreement. It would have to be, you know, $1 a year is probably still a gratuity, but if you come up with some type of reasonable lease payment, even if it is a reduced rate and maybe not completely market value, then you could do it.
We're only talking about, for us, the land.
Correct. We don't own the building.
Right, we own the
So
land.
something reasonable, if we could come up with something reasonable, even if it's a reduced rate, it doesn't, you know, they're not here, and that's sort of why I asked, will they be presenting? I'd like for them to think about that, but I did bring this up the last time we met. I want to find a way to do it. You know, I prefer they be able to do it, but we got to do it in a way that's legal.
So is it the will of the council that we try to negotiate a land lease with Kathy, who owns the building?
It depends. Depends. I'm sorry.
You know, like $50 a month or something for the land lease
It's
to
a
the building owner,
it's a for-profit company.
right?
I think we should lease it the way we would. No, we can't do it for free. Wouldn't want to do it for free. The only way I can see we'd want to do it for $1 is back maybe when cities had Boy Scouts operating and something. That's not what we're dealing with. This is a business that wants to operate. I don't see how we should treat them like any other, different from any other business. My concern after speaking to you was, how long do we want to lease that? Because it sounds like we might need that property.
Right.
And we don't want to, after my conversation with you, we don't want to get in a long-term lease if we need that money back, that land back.
We-
So my own thing is, let's make some money off the property rather than it sit there getting nothing.
Chris made the point that there's a possibility this is in the TAD, right? So we want to limit the term, but I'm just thinking if what you want to do is to move ahead with this if possible, then we don't really have a precedent for a land lease, I don't think.
Well, we do, and that's what I was going to say. The city entered into an agreement several years ago with Dinner's Ready at V-Plex, and that did not turn out very well for the city. And one of the things that we were criticized about, the council was criticized about, was that we gave an unfair advantage to a business owner who ran an otherwise normal restaurant like anyone else in town, but their rate was perhaps cheaper than someone else's rate. The same arguments were made that, you know, this was a vacant building and we needed to make money on it, and it was good service, and they did have good food. But the precedent has already been set in that instance. So I would just, guard against the implication that we're trying to give a private business, a leg up on somebody else. And I too am for it. I think it's a great idea, but I want to make that point. And I made this point at the last meeting, and I want to make it again. If we're going to be in the landlord business, we need to understand that building is in dire need of repairs. And if we become a landlord, then are we locked in to repairing it?
It's not our building. I mean,
Yeah, we're not
we don't
gonna
own
be the
building at
landlord.
all.
Who will be receiving, if this goes through, who would receive the monthly rent fee lease? Kathy?
Kathy would be
Paying us.
paying us, and I suspect that the company, whatever its name is,
Ms. Guyton.
Internet Guyton, would be paying Kathy, and Kathy would be paying us. But Ms. Guyton is going to be paying Kathy for the use of the building. And I don't know, I don't suspect they're letting her use it for free.
And then Kathy would pay us.
Right.
And isn't the building in bad shape?
That's-
Well, the reason I'm,
Partly it is.
Oh, we just said.
yeah, so if the chance that they're gonna wanna invest much money in that in the short term, so it may not work out anyway, they may not want it, 'cause if we need that property, we don't wanna give it to them long term. So they may say, no, thank you, we don't wanna do a short term year to year, because they're not gonna invest the money in something they don't know if they're gonna be able to run it for a number of years, so it may become a mute issue once we tell them that.
But that's a business decision for them.
Uh-huh.
I'm trying to figure out a way for us to
Make it possible.
make it possible, and if they find out that in the end it doesn't work for them, that's not on us.
So it sounds like it's more or less the consensus of the group that we try to at least negotiate this thing. Is
A
that
limited term,
right?
please, because we don't want, like she said, we don't want to tie it up.
Right.
So would it be beneficial, Kathy we haven't weighed in with them. Shouldn't we set all that up first and have a meeting with Kathy involved to know?
If that's what everybody wants, I'll do that.
The lease agreement right now provides that we won't terminate the agreement until the end of the school year. And right now, there's no school out there, which is one of the reasons why, if you aren't going to renew it, now is a good time to do it. If you do let a school get back going in there, then just know that under the existing lease anyway, you have to wait till the end of the school year to terminate. We can, if we're going to start charging rent, we can probably renegotiate the lease agreement anyway, though.
Wouldn't we terminate the current lease before we'd ever go into a new lease with them?
Well, either terminate it or get them to agree to modify it to something else.
Do we have liability concerns with the fact of something happening and it's our property?
It's covered, it would be covered by our insurance. Kathy also had
Just
it
like-
insured.
Okay.
So,
And we would
yes,
have a-
the
Of course,
answer
this
to
is
that
our property, something could happen here, so
We have a
just,
concern, it's the same thing as
Yeah,
something happens
yeah.
at the V-Plex.
So is a logical progression here that we need to instruct the city manager to reach out to Kathy and to the individual that wants to lease this facility or building from Kathy and bring us back all the information with our city attorney's blessing on it for the council to look at, because I don't think we have near enough information to even talk about it right now.
You've told me what I want to know, I think. David, are we talking $50 a month? $100 a month? I mean, what's the threshold for getting over gratuity on a land lease?
Fair market
I think
value.
we need to get at least some.
I mean, it's not a dollar.
Somebody to tell us
No.
what the fair
It's not a
market
dollar,
rent would be.
but it's not a lot.
But
No, it's
depends
not-
on what they're
it's-
gonna make of it.
Just a small tract of land only. No, it doesn't matter what they're gonna make off of it. It's not based on that.
But it does matter how long we're gonna let them use it.
Right.
I would think, though, even on a land lease, you're probably talking $250 to $500 a month is probably fair market rent.
Like I said,
because see, what isn't right is for
All right,
us,
you
Next
do-
Wednesday.
Do you
is
have
for us to
what-
undercut other
Okay.
businesses in town.
All right,
wanna
so
avoid that.
we're gonna gather more information, and somebody's gonna contact the applicant and let them know that really there's no need for him to be here next Tuesday, so that we will remove that from the agenda then, if that's the will of the council.
It is for me, because there's not enough information to make a decision.
Okay. All right, do we want to let Sarah go now? We had all agreed when you walked in the door, you were going to be the next big thing that came up and talked to us.
Red and black.
Red and black, good colors.
Put that well.
Red and black.
I wear that color too, and I'm Roll Tide. It's a good combination.
Mine's for Texas Tech.
He can't help himself.
Okay.
Red and black.
Alrighty. Okay, this is the August financial update. It's a little blurry. Can y'all see it better than that on your screens?
We don't have any monitors, so,
Oh.
Yeah, we can see.
Okay.
well, actually, David has a monitor.
We have it in here, though.
I'll
Yeah,
just touch on some high points because I wanted to talk about the budget and the cycle billing as well. For the general fund, right now, our cash at the end of August was 4.7, almost $4.8 million. And we are kind of dipping down at this point in the year. We will see an increase once we start collecting our property tax. I'll just skip down to revenue and expense overall. Right now, our revenue in the general fund at the end of August was 14% higher than last August in 2016. We have permits and inspections that are above where we were last year. Our losses a little bit higher than last year. Our expense is also trending a little higher than last year at 6% higher than last August, but we're still at 58% of our budget, so we're still a little bit less than where you would expect to see after 8 months. I'll move on to water and sewer. The cash at the end of August was a positive $13,000. We're not seeing a negative here, and this may be a timing difference because it has been a negative in the pool. Going on down just fund status overall, revenue and expense. The revenue in the water sewer fund is 4% higher than last August, and the expense is 20% higher than last August. But our water purchases are over budget, and I think that's the big ticket item there. We're at 67% of the overall budget in that fund, so we're still on target for the year. It's just higher than where we were last year. And lastly, solid waste. We do have a negative cash position here, negative $349,000 for the operating cash. Not a negative cash balance in the bank, but that fund owes cash to other funds. The revenue in this fund is slightly down compared to last year, 1%, and our expense is 11% higher than last year. As we've talked about in the past, Waste Industries does increase the price per cart annually. So that is part of the reason why Waste Industries' expense is higher now than it was at this point last August. Any questions on that?
say that last part again. Well,
So we're in a contract with Waste Industries that's just been automatically renewing, I believe, since 2014, and they increased the price per cart. It looks like it happens in June, or maybe that's when it goes into effect, based on CPIU. And this year it was 3.5%, almost 3.6% that they increased our cost per cart.
So they
We don't
keep doing
pass that
that, but
along.
we don't.
Correct.
Yeah. I have a question. I know we've got some new homes going in and that sort of thing. They all aren't built yet, but what accounts for the drop, do you think, in water and sewer sales? In the summer, I can imagine, because we had so much water, nobody needed to water anything. But-
Right. Last summer we had a drought, and this summer
Yeah.
we had a lot of rain. So I think the difference between
Okay, got it. Yeah,
not needing as much water.
that
this
makes
summer.
sense.
Anything else?
The contract we have with Waste Industries, is that renewal each year and we don't have to vote on it?
I believe it's been automatically renewing. I think since 2014. It's been a few months since I looked at it.
And how do we get out of that?
I think we need to go out to bid, but I'll defer on that one.
There is a provision in the contract that if we let them know at some point in time that we're not renewing, then it doesn't automatically renew.
90 days, I think.
We know when the renewal is,
April 1.
April 1.
I thought it was April.
Yeah, it's April 1.
April.
We've talked about this before. I think we talked about it
Yeah.
in our Friday sessions.
Yep.
we need to look at this.
Yes, we hope to.
So now we have a date, which is April 1. We need to make some decisions by January, February, actually December or January if we possibly can.
If it's 90 days.
You know, I've been doing this a few years, like 24. And I guess the phone calls I get in those 24 years is as many as 4 or 5 to 1 about garbage service. And most of it is not the automated. Most of it is the blue container, which is recyclable. And excuse me, in a joking way, well, I wasn't joking, spoke to the guy who, I guess the manager or something that comes by, and asked him about it, and he said, well, he attributes that to new hires. Well, those 65 to 80-year-old ladies that come home from whatever they do in the day and have to get out of their car on a busy street to move the recyclable container where they can get in their driveway, they don't really care if it's a new hire or not. At this point in time, I don't care for it either. So my question would be, is there a way that we can get those folks back over here and talk and get them to understand that, we need to look at them if they can't, we may need to take it over ourselves. But now I'm not talking about garbage, I'm talking about recyclable.
Oh.
But it just didn't make sense that these folks are put out is not the right word. They pay their taxes like everybody else and should receive the same reward when they do the garbage fee that they pay for. And it's not to get out in the middle of a busy street to move a recyclable container.
So that's it. The complaint isn't that it's not getting picked up, it's where the container is left afterwards that
Both.
ends up.
Most everybody that I know of has a certain place they put their containers for those folks to pick them up. The recyclable guy drives through, picks it up automatically and puts it back down in the same place. The guys in the recyclable trucks, they're not. It's not automated. It's a guy actually does it, and they could be from 15 to 40 foot away from where it's supposed to be. It just doesn't make sense.
They don't have that grabber thing that picks it up and puts it in? I
Not
thought
the-
that's what they were
No.
using for that too.
Not recyclable.
Okay.
we have
One
talked
way
about
to-
this before, and I don't think it's ever a good idea, even if we had the best service in the whole wide world and never heard a complaint, to not bid these things out. I mean, I just think, so I think that's the council's desire, is that we look at this and bid it back out, and, that's how it works from a legal standpoint and from a functional standpoint. And without competition, sometimes things don't get done exactly like they used
Especially
to.
with these automatic rate renewals or increases.
Right.
Here.
I don't see how you budget for that. It has to make your job hard because you don't know what they're going to adjust it based on the consumer price index is concerned. So,
We're just using 3.5%, I think.
Just an estimate.
which is just interpolating what,
Well, just looking back at.
yeah,
what they-
Shot in the dark.
okay.
Thank you.
All right, next I wanted to give y'all an update on our cycle billing. So we're starting the cycle billing in October, so hopefully most of you got these in the mail this week, letting everyone know what your new due date will be. We took all the routes and we looked at a map to see how we could divide the city evenly in 4 different areas geographically. And we've done that. We've been talking to Cassell several times, trying to figure out, all the steps we need to take to make this happen smoothly. And we start the process next week. So we've let the folks know with these, and we'll put something in there. The new bill, when it goes out this month at a different time, we'll put a new flyer in there explaining kind of similar information, the change and upcoming dates so that they need to be aware of. Plan to do a robocall in the next week and probably an email blast from Express Bill Pay. So hopefully with the different ways we're contacting people, hopefully everyone is starting to hear about this.
Did I hear you say we're supposed to have gotten those in the mail already?
Yes, our cycle
Yeah, I got
4 went
mine.
out, I think it went out last, so let me see. You may be in cycle 4. So hopefully you got yours today or tomorrow.
I got mine
Nope, not
one day
today.
this week.
I've
Okay.
seen the mail.
All right. Yeah, we've been getting calls about them, so I know at least cycle 1, 2, and 3 have started getting them. We can keep extra copies at City Hall if y'all have questions, if you want to send people there that are asking you. Basically, the new due dates will be the 7th, the 14th, the 21st, and the 28th every month. If it falls on a weekend, it'll be adjusted, which unfortunately in October it is, so it's a little bit confusing on that side. My staff did awesome this week. They, like I said, we printed and stuffed and mailed 6,000 of these flyers, and that definitely took a while. Ashley's been doing great too, trying to get all this stuff lined up in the system itself as the conversion takes place next week. So I'm looking forward to it, but I know there will be some questions. So if y'all have customers with questions, you can send them my way or Ashley's way, and we can try to help them.
It would be really nice if the paper, local paper, were to run a story on that, maybe.
I mean, you can't say we're not getting the word out anyway, everywhere possibly, especially with the robocalls too. So for people that don't do email or
Okay, those dates you gave us
everybody gets a bill.
in October on Saturday, is that the intended purpose?
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Unfortunately, in October it falls on a weekend, so it's the 6th, 13th, 20th, and 27th.
It's going to be a Friday, is that what it's going to be?
Do what? Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Mr. City Manager, you want to talk to us about a IT coordinator?
Not through.
Oh, I'm sorry.
She's just getting warmed up.
I thought she was,
Oh,
Had an easy work session.
well, they went the surface idea.
Yep.
You got 5 minutes to read this and discuss.
Okay.
it's going to be really quick, right?
Yes. Yeah, I'll just kind of point out where some things are in the book. This is the draft budget. In the past, the first version you've seen is the proposed budget. This is more of a rough draft version. Since we are going to have a few more work sessions with the budget this year than we have in the past, I wanted to go ahead and get this to y'all so you can start looking at it before then. It does have similar information that you've seen in the past. Like I said, it's just a little bit rougher. It's not as prettied up as we've seen in the past. Let's just jump right on in. Page 7, this is our budget transmittal letter, and I'll just kind of hit the high points. So, we asked for a change in the fiscal year starting October 1st of next year, which means we have a short fiscal year in 2018, January 1 through September 30th. And if any of y'all have done the math, it's been a little bit difficult to do because as we were explaining, most of our revenue for the general fund comes in Q4 and even into the following year, and it gets booked back into the prior year. So basically, in the general fund at least, speaking in round numbers, we have 9 months worth of expenses and about 6 months worth of revenue that we are trying to squeeze into this 9-month period. So we knew we would take a loss. We didn't know how large. When we started, we had a loss of $2.5 million for the general fund. Tom and I worked diligently to get that down to under $1 million, which sounds like a lot, but we can talk more about this as we meet further, but just wanted to point that out. We feel very strongly about the change in the fiscal year and feel like it's still worth it, even though you take a loss. Again, we can talk more about that, but I wanted to just say that before you go home and read that yourselves. Enterprise funds, we have included some of the, if you look at page 8, we haven't started including some of the preliminary numbers that we've gotten from our utility rate study, which includes significant increases on the water, sewer, and sanitation. Capital, we do have capital in there, including a $10 million GFA loan. I know we talked about possibly $3 million. But Pete came up with over 40 critical items. So at this point, we're just estimating what it would be to have a GFA loan of $10 million. So that's in there. Personnel, we have included additional people. Some of them we've delayed starting them. We can't necessarily afford starting them January 1 in this 9-month period. But some of these positions are very critical, especially once we move to the new City Hall and we have Butterballs as the Welcome Center. Some of those things are going to change our personnel needs. Also, debt service. I want to point this out. Historically, it's been partially funded by the general fund or even SPLOST in this past year. In 2018, with a short year, we couldn't afford to do that. So you will see a loss on the water sewer side as well. But actually, I want to go to page 11. This gives you the grand overview of all the funds. You can see the total revenues, total expenses, and whether there was a deficiency. You'll see on the water sewer fund, we do have a loss there, but what I put a note here that we have included depreciation and depreciation is a non-cash transaction. Our depreciation is over $1.1 million, and you can see our loss is less than that at $867,000. So just wanted to point that out. So that loss won't necessarily be in cash because we've included a non-cash transaction of $1.1 million for depreciation. I'm going really fast, I know that, but I just wanted to kind of hit some of the highlights. Starting on page 13 is the revenues. I won't mention anything there. Page 30 starts the capital plan, and it looks like you've seen in the past, I've given 5 years of projects listed out there. And we have broken it down this year more by department instead of lumped into administration and public works. You'll see every department here broken out separately this year. Going on to page 33, that's where the expenditures start. And again, that's broken out by department. And lastly, I'll just point out page 111 starts the personnel. And like I said, this is a rougher draft form, so you'll see all the positions that were requested this year, which ones we added, they're in green. And then I made a few notes if they had a delayed start, something like that. So, I know that's like drinking from a fire hydrant, but you do have some time now to look at it before we meet again about it.
A dripping fire hydrant.
Yes. Any just overall questions?
You know I'm going to have questions, and it's going to take me a while to look at this.
Yes.
And having done these budgets for many years, I hope this budget is more transparent than last year's was. I hope I'm able to see where costs are for the museum, for the amphitheater, how much we're paying for those kind of things. So I haven't had a chance, obviously, to look at that yet. But just a couple of comments, and number one is I appreciate Tom and the staff have been working very diligently, and Sarah, you've been putting it all together and working with them, and so I can already see a difference this year from last year's budget, and I appreciate that. I want to start off with that. But I want us to make sure, Tom, that we involve our citizen boards in this budget process. And specifically, the Recreation Advisory Commission, the Planning and Zoning Commission, and any other boards, the Library Board, they all need to be a part of this. And I know that the staff will make the recommendation to the council, and ultimately the council will approve the budget. But those committees represent our citizens, and I want them to be a part of this. And if you would, that did not happen last year. So, you know, we're at the very front end of this process right now, and I just want to say that, and you know, just understand that I will be asking that question as time goes along here. Have we involved those people? So,
I say kudos to Sarah. You're a day early on releasing this budget.
Thank you. Anything else?
Gonna have to digest it.
Yeah.
Highlight everything. Circle.
How long did it take you to do this?
Who knows, right?
Couple months.
Couple months squeezed into 1 month.
It may take at least that long to get back in it.
Thank you.
Yes,
thank you, Sarah.
thank you.
I'm going to wait till she gets completely away from the podium, make sure she don't have something else. Okay, Tom?
All right, we've got two items recommended here for personnel considerations. The first is a request for council to consider the creation of a new position for an IT coordinator. As we worked on the budget and I saw what we were spending for the Blue Group, it became pretty clear to me that when you take that information and combine it with the need that we have to improve the system overall and the response that we have to the staff when they have issues, that it's time to bring a significant part of that function in-house. We were gonna budget about 50 grand for the Blue Group in 18. I suspect that we'll cut that down to about 10 if you approve this. So we'll have a net expense, but that will pay about half the loaded cost of a new person, and we'll get 3 or 4 times the number of hours out of it, plus the person to be on site. And then the second position came up the same way. We were looking at what we were spending and what we were getting in revenue, and we pay Carroll County 60% of the permit fees for them to perform inspections, which was really, really, really smart in 10 and 11, and really, really not smart this year. So we've already paid them 120 grand in 8 months because of the permits that we've issued for someone that works here part-time, that's pretty good money if you can get it. So that looks like a pretty easy decision to me, but you would want to monitor that going forward because the reverse can happen. So if we go back into a 8, 9, 10 kind of environment, then going back the other way saves you money.
Tom,
Because your revenue would drop off again.
is it possible, with that said, is it possible to cross-train somebody on staff to do 2 functions so that if that does happen, they can drop back and do something else, or is that?
I mean, theoretically, it's possible. I just don't know the staff well enough to know who's got that kind of background, somebody that could go there. Because we don't have a multi-person function that does this, there's nowhere to put them where they could get trained by other guys that are like doing that. So right now we have to hire somebody that can walk in doing it. Same way we're looking at the engineer, same way we're looking at a P&Z person, same way we would look at an IT person. This is not where you go to get taught how to do it. You got to pretty much walk in doing it. So that's I think initially that's what this guy would or gal would be doing.
Questions from council?
Makes sense.
No, this one's easy.
Okay, hearing none, we'll move on. We've already done, Sarah's done her thing, so we'll move on to community development. And we're taking item number 1 off the
right.
agenda, which will take us to item number 2, which is variance -04-17, request from Sean P. Shea, comma, D.R. Horton. Is that
Right.
that one's still on?
2 and 3 are on.
Okay.
Okay, so 2 and 3 we can do together. They're 2 different neighborhoods, same issue. These lots were platted back in the previous decade. We're not sure exactly when. And D.R. Horton has purchased the land and is now desiring to have building permits issued. And when Janet looked at this, it was clear that the current ordinances, which include 2 buffers off of the state stream buffer, we include 2 buffers now that the houses sit in. And so she told Horton that they had to apply for variances. So we've knocked this around, and I've handed out drawings of the site so you can see exactly how severe the setbacks variance and how that relates to Janet's recommendations, how that falls out. So in some of them, like on the second page, number 28 and 29 have no need for a variance request, right? So I'm not sure exactly why she required that, but 26 is all in the newer variances. So since we don't have perfect information and we don't know whether the lots were platted before this current ordinance was put into place, one thing we can do is look back at what did get approved, and my argument would be that if these 2 setback ordinances were in place when this application for platting was given, then this would have been denied. So the very fact that it got platted indicates to me that these 2 ordinances weren't in force at that time. which means that these lots are grandfathered. All right, and there is no imposition into the state buffer, although 37 on the first page is the closest. So you can see that north corner, assuming that north is up, that north corner gets pretty close, but it's not in the state buffer, and it's either it is or it isn't, and according to the plan, it's not. But in a lot of cases, like 3 of the cases, the only issue was part of a deck was in the buffer. So I mean, so what Janet gave us was like right by the book, assuming that it's not grandfathered. But at this point, you know, we can't make the argument for sure that the ordinance existed before the plating. It doesn't make any sense to me that it would have been. And so at this point, I would recommend to you that we approve the variance request on all of these. And it may be when they get into it that they, you know, physically decide that there's such an issue with the lots. Charlie's been out to look at the lots. This is not like prime development property. Some of it's, you know, pretty severely, pretty severe terrain rolling down to a creek from a road. So
So
there
what
may
you're,
be some issues there, but
On your page 2, that house right there, looks like it's, half the house is inside the shaded area.
right, it's in our buffers, but those buffers didn't exist, we don't think, at the time that the lots were platted.
David, do you?
Yeah, I don't disagree with any of that. I haven't studied it, and I don't have a recollection as to when Northwoods was platted.
Yep. Yeah,
We've never had to look at Northwoods before that I know of.
Yeah, Horton's argument is that the development started in 4. We did the ordinances in 6, and that there's potentially the argument that from aerial photography from 5 that the lots were cleared, which means that we were, you know, in the process of doing land disturbance and building the lots out. So I think the only thing that we can do now is to recommend that you approve them. And
they are, I asked this question last month, they are stubbed up.
Charlie went out and put his eyes on them.
Somebody went to a considerable amount of.
They are. They are.
Yeah, did you say that all of them had water and sewer from your inspection?
Yes, they all have water and sewer at all locations. The road's been topped in the Northwood one. That road is finished there. Sidewalks are completed except for in front of these 3 lots. And it looks to me like there should probably be one more street light at the very end in front of these 3 lots to make them evenly spaced. But other than that, and the drop off, I don't see anything else holding it up.
It would just seem, you know, to me that's, if we don't have anything in writing, for the developer at that point, at that time, to put in water and sewer on those lots, tells me that after that fact, that's when the additional buffer was put in place. I can't imagine anyone spending that much money for those tap fees and to stub that up if that were not the case. So, thank you, Charlie. Any other questions? So items 2 and 3 we're going to leave like that, but they will be discussed at the same time. Tom? Items 2 and 3 will be, those are intertwined?
Yeah, they're basically the same thought process.
Okay.
So, yeah, you'd vote on them separately maybe, but it's the same rationale.
Same issue, it's just 2 different subdivisions.
Gotcha.
Number 1 got taken off, but I assume it'll be coming back.
That's the development agreement.
No, right now they're waiting to see what happens with, so they're pulling out of that for now.
Okay.
Okay, item number 4 is an alcohol beverage license for Luther's Bistro, and I assume someone will let the applicant know they need to be here Tuesday night so we can quiz them. And
Yeah, my understanding, this is a renewal. This is not a,
well, I know a little information about this one. They were a nonprofit, and the alcohol license was in the nonprofit's name. So when they did away with the nonprofit part of it, that allowed them to, they had to go back and put the alcohol license in their name, which meant they had to follow through with all the requirements and whatever, so, which means it comes back to council.
Right.
So, they've been doing business now 3 years.
I've heard somebody say that right now they're not serving alcohol because of
That's correct.
the gap. So, I mean, they're motivated to get this done because they're losing sales because of it.
So since it's a new one, they do need to be here then, so. Okay. And Chief Mansour has already did his thing. Parks and Recreation have a request here for the Nugget Drop fireworks display. So Vicki will present that information to us Tuesday night.
She sent me the contract, and I've reviewed it, and it looked fine to me. It's the same contract we've had in years past.
Is it the same company?
I believe it is the same company.
East Coast Pyrotechnics, is that who it is?
So where is she today?
I have not talked to her today, so I don't know if she's out of town or what.
Go ahead.
Did it get
Nope.
given to someone else to present?
Not to my knowledge.
We have our work sessions on the calendar, don't we?
You're the fallback, aren't you, Tom? You get to do everybody that's not here?
Yeah, well, I'll make sure she's here, or somebody from the department.
4,000. Everything else is pretty much the same.
It is, I mean, I thought it was the same company. It's very standard contract terms.
Yeah, maybe they came in under or something.
Okay,
That's the only two bids I see in the packet, but it does say J&M Displays is the recommendation.
I'm going to say this, and then y'all can tell me how you want to proceed with this, but the purpose in these work sessions is to ask the staff questions so that we can get clarification, so that we can hopefully either put this on a consent agenda for the Tuesday night meeting or pull it because of lack of information. And I guess I'm a little bit offended that we have city department heads that aren't here to do just that, to help us with that information. And Tom, maybe you can help us. She was aware that there was a meeting, I assume, since she turned in the agenda item. Okay. Well, I'm going to suggest that we remove this. Is this time sensitive? I wouldn't think it was, since it's December 31st.
I don't know this company, so
I'm going to suggest that we remove this from the agenda, not because of anything to do with the companies, just because I want to hear from the department head so that the council has a chance to make an informed decision. So we'll take that up at the end of the meeting. Okay, moving right along, tab H, Public Works. Pete? And/or Charlie?
Mayor and council, have two emergency lift station pump replacements that have happened in the last 45 days. We had one at the Ashbury lift station, replaced a pump there for $12,579. The pump failed, it wasn't rebuildable, and just had to be replaced as soon as we could. The other one was at the Bivens lift station. That one was for $11,143, and that was the same situation. Pump failed, 15 years old, and just needed to be replaced.
Questions?
When one fails like this, Charlie, how long does it take to get the new one in?
Normally, these smaller ones like this are available. We were able to actually get these probably within a week and get them back in service. Each lift station has at least 2 pumps, so when one goes down like this, you know, we have, particularly like this one at Ashbury, these pumps were 10, 15 years old, so we were on borrowed time if the other one didn't get in. And we have a lot of them in that shape, so yeah, it's getting kind of critical on several of them.
How close are we to making all the lift stations use the same pump? We tried to do that probably 10 or 12 years ago.
We need to do it going forward, but the cost of retrofitting things because of the way the pumps are installed, the depths, the wet wells and everything else aren't consistent, you would nearly have to rebuild the entire lift station. We're kind of stuck with this.
I was
until
afraid
we
you'd
start
say that.
phasing them out. But going forward, we definitely need to do that.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Charlie. The next item on our work session agenda is for the consent agenda review. So I'll go down the list here, and if someone wants to remove an item from the, or place an item on the consent agenda, then we'll do that. Obviously, we have to vote on our meeting minutes. We are removing item C2 from the agenda. Is that correct? Do we have more information?
Head Start.
Mm-hmm.
That's the Head Start building.
Yeah, that was
Is it conceivable that we would have that by the December meeting?
It's just around the corner. You got that
December?
meeting with them and all that.
November meeting.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I mean, I was giving you another month.
Don't push
It's
us too
conceivable
quick.
could-
We need this time.
If they're motivated, yeah, we could have something by November.
Okay.
We'll have to meet with them. David will work on a contract.
All right, item 3, C3.
I would like to put that on the consent agenda.
I got no problem.
Actually, 3M.
Anybody see it any other consent agenda? Okay, 3 is on the, then it would stand to reason that number 4
Yeah.
is also on the consent agenda. All right, Sarah will do her.
We'll still get that
Presentation.
information out to the public, like in the Villa Rica happening, so people kind of know about it, since it's consent. I mean, I know we briefly mention it. Does it usually go on there? Oh, she's gone. The Villa Rica happenings, a lot of times we'll put, the city is doing this or that, and
And what do you want to put on there?
The change in the billing. Is
that we're
what-
taking,
Cycle
that we're doing our own building inspecting going forward, and that
Consent
we'll,
agenda is what she's asking.
yeah, what's on the consent agenda?
We have not done that since I've been here, but. we
Never mind, don't worry
we
about it.
Certainly could.
I think
I'm
it's good for
confused
people
now.
to know.
Publicizing what's on the consent
So,
agenda.
I think what Leslie is wanting to know is if you're gonna just post that we're bringing on these new positions into the happenings, I think that would be
That's
yes.
pretty much it, that it,
But not our whole list of consent items.
no.
It's added to the new agenda.
Posted, it does go in the city act.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Tab D, 1 is a monthly financial report. Tab E, 1 we're removing.
It's gone.
Tab E 2 and 3 will be voted on separately, so we leave those on there. I mean, item E4 is on there.
You say on there, you
It's
got,
not on the consent agenda.
No, it's on
None
the.
of these.
if-
On the agenda.
Yeah, it's on the agenda, unless okay, tab F1,
That should
I'd
stay
like to
on.
put that on the consent agenda.
okay,
No.
No, I think it should stay on.
okay. We have one,
It's
at
not
least one that
budgeted,
says
right?
no,
It's
so
just
it will remain on the agenda for Tuesday night. Tab G1,
Well, we took that
Said
off.
you were taking that off.
well, I suggested it, but
No,
take it off or no? Well, what does no mean?
no, not on consent agenda.
wait, are we gonna have it on the agenda?
We don't,
Since we didn't talk about it.
yeah, that's fine. Take it off.
It'll be okay if, it'll still, time-wise, it'll still be okay if it's
Well,
tabled.
what that means is we'd have to push this to November. Would that cause us a problem?
We don't know.
I think give us a chance to find out tomorrow whether or not it's time sensitive.
I think we need to
Okay.
leave it on the agenda for Tuesday. I think we ought to have a policy like the mayor said, but I'd hate to see the city suffer because
I think we already have
Mess
a
it up.
policy.
I don't want to mess it up for the company either, if they know they're doing the
That
job,
may need to
whatever
be looked
prep
at.
they have to do.
We do have a policy.
I'd like to leave it on.
What is
I
the
don't know if we
policy?
have a policy, but we certainly have an understanding.
Well, we have a procedure for those who, you have been here a while. I know agenda items have to be in on a certain date, correct? Correct? So it would just stand to reason if there was, you had an agenda item on the agenda that you would be there to present it. I mean, that,
Conversations we should have this. Talk about the
But you would have had somebody here.
ladies and gentlemen, is your desire, how you want, do we leave it on the agenda and?
Well, it really depends
I'm
on
concerned
information
about
we get
taking
back
it
from
off.
him as to whether or not
There's-
it's going to affect anybody.
There could be a time.
So leave it on the agenda.
We can always,
Yeah, because what if there is a time factor
Yeah.
problem? If it's
we
not
can always
approved?
table it.
Take it
if-
off the
But
agenda.
we should be able to find out by
We can table
Tuesday.
it Tuesday night
and
if it's bad.
You could still remove it if you wanted on Tuesday.
So we leave it on for now.
Okay, tab H1,
Consent,
Oh, yeah. It's already done, so
Yeah.
you're looking.
it's done, it was an emergency, we needed the pumps.
yeah, all right, so these are the items that I have on consent agenda. Tab C3, C4, tab H1. Does anybody see it any different?
What about F?
That's what I have.
Sir?
What was F1?
Councilman Best said no, really
Oh.
loud.
Oh, he said
He
no.
wants to talk about it.
Very loud.
All right, Mr. City Manager, give us some good news.
Okay, I'll have to look through my list and see if there's any good news in here.
The cool front's coming in tomorrow.
No,
It's gonna turn into fall again.
what's that?
The cool front's coming in
Right.
tomorrow, so it's gonna feel like fall. That's good news.
Thank you, Leslie. That's good.
All right, we've got several positions that have been open and are at or near close. So the library director's position closed last Friday. We had 22 applications, so we'll be interviewing soon. Engineer and the P&Z coordinator both closed tomorrow. We received finally today pricing from Sync Global, who is our fiber provider. We asked them for quotes to connect the Georgia Power Building, the old library, and the Welcome Center to their system. So we're looking at about a $25,000 expense for the three of those together, and there'll be an additional $820 a month fee going forward for that service. We have several commercial plans that are being reviewed right now. So the much-discussed project Blue Sky is in-house now, and we're looking at those plans. So that's the expansion of Sugar Foods. We have a 3-bay commercial development out on 61 next to Bojangles that you probably have heard about.
Way back.
So Starbucks is interested in one of the bays, and Moe's is interested in one, and then a nail salon, I understand, is interested in the third. There's a Taco Bell that submitted plans that would be next door to McDonald's in front of the Publix on the west side, on the east side. So that's in plan review. We had one really good thing happen, I guess this week, if Pete will have to help me with the exact date, but some of you have met Erin, who is one of our operators out at the water treatment plant, and she passed her Class 1 exam, which is, if you're not in the business, that's a big deal.
Yeah, that's a
And
really
she'd
big
taken
deal.
it, what, 3 times before, maybe?
We won't mention it.
And Pete, well, I mean, that's how hard it is.
No, it's not.
It is
That's-
no
that's a
joke.
hard test.
And I've been around people for 30 years that have tried and
That's a hard
failed
test.
to pass that exam, and and they never pass it their whole career, and they wind up being a Class 2 operator forever, because they just can't get there. So that's a big deal. So that's partly, significantly Erin, and partly Pete, because I think Pete has helped her and encouraged her and challenged her to keep on plugging until she finally got it. So that puts the city water system in better shape, because we've been relying on Pete's Class 1 to operate, to be legal, and now we've got another Class 1.
Question is, do we have her tied to a long-term contract?
No. No. Yeah, maybe.
That's an understanding.
So she-
Contract.
So we'll see if we can keep her. I mean, she seems very happy here. She'll get a big bump in pay because of that. So we'll see how that works out. We've talked some about the water authority negotiations that have taken place. So we've met with Douglas County Water twice and Carroll twice. And when I say us, I'm talking about Pete and I. And both initial conversations have focused around several components. One is our willingness to commit to a take-or-pay contract, or a take-or-pay component, where we would agree to pay for a quantity of water every day, whether we use it or not. We have asked both entities for the opportunity to purchase capacity in their system. So the term of the arrangement is maybe not the most significant part, because that capacity purchase is permanent. Does that make sense? Although the take or pay part might have a term to it. But it wouldn't really make sense for us to go that way if we don't sort of stay in that relationship. Because having the capacity but not buying water from them wouldn't make a lot of sense. So we're going down that road. Another component that would be in place in both agreements is an emergency purchase clause. If you remember back in 16 when we had the algae bloom and the drought back to back, we purchased our water from Carroll for 8 months. And that contract really didn't put Carroll in a very good position. They just had to provide it. And because of that, during that drought, they hit a day where they produced almost 90% of the capacity of their permit, which spooked them pretty well, and it's led to them making plans for this plant expansion. So those two conversations are moving along. The mayor and I recently went to Douglas to meet with the staff for the first time since I've been here. I understand that had happened about 6 months ago, so we're going to try to have quarterly meetings with Douglas. The mayor took me to a similar meeting in Carroll several weeks ago, and I met a number of the mayors, which was really interesting. Carroll County mayors that's an eclectic group of people right there. And so I got to hear some interesting stories and meet some guys that I had not had the opportunity to meet. Let's see what else we got here. I wanted to piggyback a little bit on what Sarah told you about cycle billing. So I've done cycle billing a couple of times. In East Point, we went from, I guess, a single cycle to 18 cycles. And we did that because we had 18,000 customers, and so we had the scale for that to make sense. When I was in, let me think when this happened, somewhere back in the day, I helped College Park switch, I guess, from 1 to 4. Or maybe they switched from 4 to 18 also, I guess is what happened then. Which I can remember thinking at the time, if College Park had 4 cycles and was fussing about it, and I would have died to have 4 cycles when I was at East Point, because we were billing 18,000 people once a month and cutting them off once a month. So cutoff there was truly an adventure, because it involved electric too. So it was, not $200 bills, but $500 and $600 and $800 bills that were delinquent. And So we had a police officer in the hall, and, you know, it was an interesting kind of deal that we don't want to get into, and that's one of the benefits of cycle billing, is just to control the mass of work. Another thing that may benefit us from cycle billing is that if we go to 4 cycles like we're planning, we'll have the opportunity to create a more balanced job for the people that are in that cashier's box. Because now it's boom or bust, and they have a lot of days when there's just not a lot happening. And then they have other days where too much stuff is happening, and they can't, you know, they just can't deal with it. And Charlie's trying to accommodate that. Y'all don't really think about Charlie in terms of cycle billing and collecting, but he's the guy that's having to give us people to do the cutoffs and the cut-ons. And when he becomes the bottleneck sometimes, right? Because one guy can't handle the volume, and so he winds up giving up people to assist with the cutoffs and the cut-ons. So that messes him up, right? So, I mean, this is going to have a widespread benefit. But I say all that to say that y'all better get prepared for this, because I've done it twice, and the transition is a bear. Because people do not change readily, and this isn't an insignificant change for some people. The way that we billed previously was we would drop bills in the mail on the last day of the month, so people would get them the 1st or the 2nd, and they get their Social Security check on the 3rd, and they would come to town and pay all their bills on the 3rd. So when we moved into cycle billing and got off of that, you would have thought that we had kidnapped their grandkids or something, because it messed up their whole life. You know, the way that they lived their life. It just didn't accommodate the way that they paid. And so you're going to get feedback from people that just don't like the change. Councilman, you got a question on your face?
Yes, sir. It just, because of that, and before Miss McPherson got the north part of the town that I had at one time, most of the people there were retired folks, a lot of them from the mill, but most of them were retired, period. But in other places that I've lived, one of the things that has helped me along, and some other folks that I remember, was a budget plan. And to be able to go back a year and come up with an amount of money that they would pay each month,
Right.
or each cycle, doesn't matter
Right.
when.
Every month.
Every month they would pay, and then at the end of the year, look at either reducing it or going up so many dollars or whatever. Have we looked into that, as well as the new cycle building?
We have not looked into budget billing, but we can. It's difficult in and of itself. It's got its own, you know, pros and cons, and we can do that.
That's called levelized building.
Right, a level billing, right. And the issue with it is the 13th month when you true up. So as long as you do it right and people pay it, then you're okay. So here's the thing you need to be prepared for. Because of our prior policy, we were cutting off people 70 days after they got red. 70 days. So when we collapse that gap, what effectively is going to happen between now and February is people are going to pay 3 bills in 2 months. That makes sense? Because we're shrinking that gap down, and when you do it once and then it follows 2 more times, what would have happened in the next month is going to happen 3 times in 60 days, because you're going to start reading and billing, and then the clock's running only for, I forgot what we said, is it 20 or 25 days or something, and we're cutting off.
So the
Right.
ones that get
So
cut off.
instead of that being at 70 days, you pulled it back 45 days.
45, something.
Yeah. So it's a significant difference. But for the people that struggle to pay, the way that we're doing it now, I feel like hurts them. By giving somebody 70 days, they're gonna take 75, and then we're giving them, you know, a late fee and a fee to get cut back on, and it becomes unmanageable. And if we get into a situation where they have to get completely caught up, then they're having to pay 2 full months plus a fee just to get their water back on, you know? So what we're doing doesn't help in the long run.
What we're doing right now
What we're doing right
doesn't
now,
help.
It's really difficult.
Now they won't get so far behind
Yeah, they'll catch
because the
up.
notice will come sooner and the cutoff will come sooner, so they won't be so far out,
They're
right?
gonna run up and thank you for it in the
No,
beginning.
it's gonna be
They're
painful.
They're not
get
gonna thank us
A
ever.
lot harder.
No, they're not gonna thank us ever.
Any changes are gonna be
No,
that way.
they're not gonna thank us ever, but what we want to have happen is for them never to have more than one bill to deal with.
Yeah.
That's the goal. And if we can create an environment where they have to either pay it or lose their service every single month, then it not only does all these things, you know, to help Charlie's guys and help the cashiers and all that, but it will help people stay current. This would be just one less bill that they're just chronically, you know, scuffling over, trying to figure out what to do. And the other thing that makes this really detrimental is the percentage that the late fee represents of a typical bill is a lot higher when it's a water sewer bill than when it's water, sewer, and electric, because typically the fee is the same amount for anybody's system. You know, it's $35 or whatever. That's a lot of money of a $60 or $80 bill. Now, if it's a $200 bill or a $300 bill, $35 is still something, but it's not
Right.
such a big
Percentage-wise.
chunk, you know. And so anyway, so I'm hoping that over time, you know, that we can get where we want to be, but I don't want y'all to go into this, you know, without your eyes open. This is going to be a bear, and it's going to be during the holidays, and
Education is key, though. We need to get this out in as many outlets as we can. Let
over
folks
and
know,
over,
You know, yeah, over and over.
over and over. We're going to have to do it for 3 months.
Right.
All the way through the end of the year. Well, you see how Sarah's starting. I mean, she's starting out, you know, trying to communicate it, but it's one-on-one. I mean, again, I don't want you to kid yourself. All that math stuff is great, and we got to do it to be responsible, but in terms of explaining it, we're going to explain it to people one-on-one. The cashiers are going to do it, Sarah's going to do it, I'm going to do it, and I guarantee y'all are going to do it.
I was going to say, I might need a little bit more practice
You will.
to explain that
Right.
as clearly as it
You
needs
will.
to be.
And the why, you know, why are we doing it?
I
We're
got that.
doing it
Yeah.
because it has like 4 or 5 or 6 operational benefits to us. I mean, it just benefits us place after place in the organization. Cash flow, reducing bad debt, helping Charlie with his scheduling, improving the quality of the work environment for the cashiers. I mean, you know, there's all kind of benefits to us, but the customers, that's not where they live, right? But in the end, it will help the customers as a group by closing that gap and making them responsible for a bill at a time and not letting them get so far behind. So anyway, that's my pitch. I just, you know, I want you to know what we're doing. It's going to be hard.
I just want to add one other thing that just happened to occur to me when we're talking about this, because this will affect our seniors, and it started me thinking. I would like to add to the agenda, and I'll talk about it in my section, just to remind voters that in November, the first Tuesday in November, they need to get out and vote however they're going to vote on the senior tax exemption. That was a big issue, you know, when we started out the year, and I know we can't tell people how to vote, and that would not be my intention, but we certainly need to make sure that we get the word out and let the seniors know that they have, everybody, that they have a chance to vote on this tax exemption, senior tax exemption issue in November. And as I understand it, talking with Dr. Jackson over in Douglas County, that will be the only thing that's on the Douglas County ballot that day. So, you know, getting the word out is going to be very crucial.
Yeah, we could have a record low turnout to this.
So if you would just add that, I will, Larry, I'll talk to you.
I think he means maybe.
I would like to,
If you just add that, I'll just discuss it a little bit.
I'd like to see it on the agenda, just to remind people.
Yeah.
I think that's a good idea, and
Yeah.
it'll be on the agenda.
Okay, anything else? All right, we stand in adjournment. We are in adjournment. We are adjourned.
We don't have to.
We quit.
You just have to get up and leave. Take near the parade.
It's on the other side of the tracks.
What?
Stays on
No,
78
I'm
the whole
supposed to be
time?
driving in it.
Well, that was the reason why I didn't.
He couldn't get his boat hooked up.
He didn't have a permit for it. They didn't have a permit for it.
Didn't have a permit.